captive agents used to have better technology, better training. They used to be ahead. It used to be so hard to be an independent agent, right? And I'm not saying it's not hard to be an independent agent, but the independent channel has caught up, if not surpassed.
So it's interesting you bring up tech, and what's the big buzzword right now is AI. Yeah, your chat GBT and all that kind of stuff out there. How do you see, like, it's interesting launching into an environment where tech is becoming king. Do you see that there's a lot of hope for the agent moving forward with the tech, or is the tech going to be an adversary? Right? Are we going to be buying from robots?
No, I mean, not for me, right? Like, so if you paint me with the brush, I am like team IA channel, that happens to be in the insurtech space. I don't think so. I think it's that, it's like 83% of, or whatever the number is, of business is still wrote by a broker or an agent. At least for us in OB, we're not trying to change that stat. We just want, of that 83%, instead of them writing it with Travelers or writing it with NRIG or whoever it would be, right, to write it with OB. We're just trying to maybe give some better paint, that dries quicker and maybe costs less, or whatever. Or just, we personally think that we're just trying to provide better tech to the broker. They already have the business, so we have no reason to not want to work with instead of work against. And I think for brokers, I don't know what's going to happen with Mars and technology in general anyways, as far as like the human race, like, we're getting more and more into our phones and less being able to have a conversation. But I think that it's going to be a long time before brokers, aren't important. And really, it's the same journey I was on as a broker is what the journey we're on as an insurtech is. This hybrid thing between broker and insurtech, the channel of brokers have the business, insurtechs have maybe a faster, more efficient process to get policies in front of clients, and combining that.
How about captive agents? How do you see technology affecting captive?
I think the State Farms and the other, captive carriers, what they're going to need to do is decide, for years they were like, hey, we're going to go into banking and mutual funds and all this stuff, right? Because they were big and dominant. I think they're going to tighten and realize that they got to concentrate on home and auto or whatever there it is. And I think they're going to start to either acquire, like, State Farm acquires OB to be their rental arm, and they're going to bring in tech that way, right?
You hear that, State Farm? This is an offer. He's putting it on the table.
We'll sell right now like $5 billion.
You only have 5 minutes to make your decision.
That's Aaron and Ryan for our evaluation, but that's
$5 billion is probably good.
$5 billion, yeah, and lunch. I think they got to buy lunch.
Sushi,
burger. I'm a simple farm kid at heart, but as long as you're buying, I'm probably eating. So, really what I see for those captive is they're going to need to get into the tech space for their agents, or they're going to need to provide their agents more opportunities, because I think that their agents and their brokers are good people and should stay. It's just that if they're not giving them the tools, just like someone myself, like, you're going to outgrow the captive. You can't just, like my dad, hang your shingle anymore. I want them to survive, right? Like, personally. So I'm hoping that a lot of these captives who have a crazy good balance sheet, able to acquire some companies, that's how they get into the tech for their agents. And again, I think it's a win-win, right? Like, you want to have OB wrote by 18,000 State Farm agents. I would love that, connection, right? Like, I think that you got our space should think more as like, how can you be more Dropbox than like competition, right? Like, how can we work together to ultimately write more business in an efficient way, better for the client, things like that, and less like, hey, I'm going to take $10 from you so someone can take $10 from me. And our industry over the last 10 years, 15 years has been about discounts and saving money. I really think that the next is efficiencies, technology, and how do we gain clients that way, right? Like, how do we provide better services? Sure, we'll save them money here and there along the way, and it'll be better, but we don't need to do the 15 minutes to save 10% anymore, right? Like, that's kind of on its way out.
It's interesting though, because at least on the captive side, I can speak to, they're very scarcity mindset about their stuff, right? Like, hey, this is my stuff, don't touch it, and you don't get any, right? And then pivoting from that thinking to a, Elon Musk open, hey, here's the plans of the Tesla, you can make your own, right? Like, it's a very, very wide gap.
They just, again, it used to work, right? Because it used to be so hard to switch. It used to be so hard to move. So, I owe State Farm an apology because I'll just keep picking on it here, but I actually deep down inside love them. I'm very thankful for what they've done for my family. So, make sure that's known here. But yeah, their one-on-one training is multi-line, get as many policies as you can. Like, you'll never lose the business, right? Because they think of this method of like, once you're so in deep, like it's too painful to switch. Well, that's not really a thing anymore, right? Like people are going. So, that method doesn't really work as much anymore, where, you can be kind of fat and sassy and say, hey, like, I don't really need to work with others or do different things like that, because my multi-line book, we got a 95% retention ratio and it's not going in there. And if I have a life policy, it's 97. Like, that just doesn't exist anymore. Because it used to be that life was hard to get, or a lot of people didn't do the multi-line, everyone's doing that now, right? I used to say with my State Farm all the time, I would have maybe still be a State Farm agent if they would have just given me like, maybe let's call it 3 or 4 strategic contracts, right? So I have my main State Farm, and maybe there's a rule where I got to run it through them first or something, but give me like a substandard auto, maybe give me a next insurance, I don't know, or something, give me a couple things that State Farm didn't really do well. Right. Like, I was a rental and apartment guy. State Farm at the time wouldn't write those to save their life. If the premium should be around 100, they were at $1 million, right? Like, give me a couple contracts there, maybe one wholesaler contract with an Amwins or something. 90% of my business still goes to State Farm, 10%. And that's my book outside my book that I eventually bring back into State Farm as, things change, et cetera. So personally, that's where I would like to see a lot of them go. And I think a lot of them will need to, or they're going to have to downside their agency force. It's going to go from, 18,000 down to 4,000, because you're just, probably not going to be able to compete the same way you did, not with the independent agents. That's the other thing too, is the captive agents used to have better technology, better training. They used to be ahead. It used to be so hard to be an independent agent, right? And I'm not saying it's not hard to be an independent agent, but the independent channel has caught up, if not surpassed, with their ability to do things independently. They actually, I think, maybe have even, like I said, surpassed the captive, because they've been constantly battling to get better, constantly bringing in things to help their agency, and the captive has been like that. So that's my thought process there.
Well,
super cool.
I guess that's it.
Thanks guys for having me.
All right. Yep. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Have a great one.
Bye.